Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. We've got about 13,000 miles on our long-term Tesla Model Y standard range. Chris up at the Topher pointed out that because this has a lighter battery pack and one less motor than the long-range Model Y, we could actually run the 18-inch Model 3 wheels on this car, and they would fit, and the car would be light enough to be supported by those wheels. So here we are, 13,000 miles in, and we're doing a test. What works better for this car, 19-inch wheels or 18-inch wheels? This video series is going to be broken up in two parts because we couldn't simply go from the OEM Pro Contact RXs to an 18-inch tire because they don't make this tire in an 18-inch size. So in order to keep it apples to apples, we're going with Continental's Ultra High Performance ExtremeContact DWS 06 Plus tire. I know it's a mouthful, but it's one of their best and most up-to-date and aggressive ultra high performance all-season tire options for SUVs. So Continental hooked us up with both a 19 and an 18-inch tire for this test. So there's going to be two videos. One video is going to be comparing the stock Pro Contact Continental tires to the new ExtremeContact tires, both 19-inch sizes. And then another video is going to be comparing both the 19 and 18-inch ExtremeContact tires, seeing what sort of differences we get in ride quality, noise, and most importantly, efficiency. So if you're interested, be sure to tune into both videos, but let's jump right into talking about the Continental ExtremeContact tires. As I said, these are ultra high performance all seasons, so the DWS stands for dry, wet, and snow. You can use these in all sorts of weather. They're not going to give you full winter tire performance in the snow or full summer tire performance in the dry, but they're supposed to really bridge the gap between good parts of all of those tires. But hey, instead of listening to me rabble on about these tires, let's talk to an expert at Continental who actually helped design these tires. So we're here with Bjorn from Continental Tire. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself and what it is you do?
Absolutely. Good to meet you, Charlie. And my name is Bjorn Glaser, and I work in product management for Continental Tires here in the US, and basically do everything that is UHP, or in other words, fast and fun, speed symbols, WY rated, so all the high speed symbols, low aspect ratio tires, and you could say wide tires, large rims, fast cars, high horsepower, whatever you want to call it.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for working with us on this project. Now, you and your team recommended the ExtremeContact DWS 06 Plus tire for this test. So from what we understand, this is a great all-season tire for DWS, dry, wet, and snow. Can you explain a little bit why this tire for an electric vehicle?
Yeah, absolutely. So the ExtremeContact DWS 06 Plus is a tire that we've recently just launched. And with that, of course, one of the newest generation tires, right? It is already built in mind for both combustion engines and, on the other side, electrical vehicles. Yeah. And what does that mean? Basically, you have your improvements for grip, for handling, for longevity, all those type of things, which are typical to, let's say, traditional UHP tire development, to traditional tire development, just to maximize grip, to maximize joy, to maximize fun. But on the other side, now especially important for the electric vehicle like Tesla, the rolling rims, or say the contribution of the tire to the range of a vehicle. So with that in mind, we really optimized this tire also for that aspect of performance to make sure we're, let's say, very competitive in this segment, to really we're one of the best tires for within this segment, of course, for longevity or range of a electrical vehicle.
So what I understand is this tire is going to provide us better stopping distance in dramatic situations, rain, snow, probably dry as well over the OEM tire. We may see a little bit of loss in efficiency, which we have noticed a little bit so far in our testing, but from our conversations together, I understand that Continental tries to provide products for all different sorts of users, and it's not necessarily one's bad and one's good. It's just what different needs, different people, and providing all those. And this Extreme Contact tire provides what you all think is the best product for a high performance tire for an electric vehicle.
Absolutely, yes. So the idea is a balanced product, best balanced, and you have the rolling resistance or the range. On the other side, you have how long the tire lasts, how much the tire grips. And my clear recommendation to you was, let's use this for this vehicle. Also given, of course, the sizes and the speed symbol that go on this vehicle is very much in line with a so-called UHP tire. Yes.
So obviously, weather's great out here in Michigan right now. Snow's not flying. But 6 months from now, when we are dealing with winter roads, do you think there's a possibility we're going to see better winter performance with this tire over the OEM tire?
Likely, yes. I don't have a test result. I have never done that direct comparison. Those should be good tires, both of them. Typically, the OEM tires, also for Tesla, are designed for, let's say, a little bit more range optimization. And with the replacement tires with a little bit less range, so to say, you typically see a little bit higher winter performance, which is slightly more important for the average customer. You could say that isn't necessarily focused on a Tesla that has a combustion engine, whatever. I'm interested to see what comes out. So I don't actually know the result.
Great. Yeah, we'll have to follow up later on and see how that does. So obviously we drive a whole bunch of different types of vehicles here at Daily Motor, and even I had trouble differentiating this Extreme Contact tire to the original Pro Contact tire in just daily driving. So what should I be looking for as kind of a general consumer, and what would people be looking for? Should they expect to really notice any difference in their daily driving from the OE tire from Continental to this Extreme Contact tire?
A lot of people, I would say, between two premium tires like that will not notice much of a difference. For, let's say, normal daily driving experience, yeah. The moment where you might really notice a difference is if you go into, let's say, severe braking for emergency situations, yeah, those type of things. But you're talking about differences of a few feet when you're braking from, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour and you're slamming on your brake, emergency stop. You might see a few feet difference between two premium tires. Where the difference gets a little bit bigger is where the road conditions get worse. So differences are bigger in rain versus dry. They're bigger in snow versus rain. The worse the road, really, the bigger the difference in tires. Yeah. However, on these two premium tires for daily usage, I wouldn't expect you to see much of a difference.
That makes sense to us, having gone from one tire to the other, and yeah, it's good to know that the general differences are going to be subtle, but also kind of an insurance policy, knowing that if an emergency situation does arise, we have 4 good contact points to help us steer, to help us brake, all that sort of thing. And from what I understand, the difference between something like a Continental big premium type tire is going to be fairly significantly better than a kind of a budget tire option that you might just be able to go down to your local convenience store and put on your car for cheap.
Yes. So that is where the safety aspect or the emergency situation aspect between like you said, a good piece of rubber and a piece of rubber comes into play. Yeah.
That's a very diplomatic way to put that. I like that. Well, thanks for all your help, and we're looking forward to trying out these Extreme Contacts for a little while longer on the 19s, and then we'll be talking again when we've used the 18-inch tires for a little while and kind of talking about what sort of differences we've seen from 18 to 19. So thank you so much, Bjorn, for coming on and chatting with us, and we're going to head out and talk more about what these tires are like to drive.
Absolutely.
So we know we're probably going to see some sort of range hit with these tires because they are grippier and they're fresh. And we're probably not going to notice too much change in ride quality or drivability going from the OE tires to these because ultimately they're the same size. But the thing is with tires is you kind of don't notice you've got them until an emergency situation comes. Let's get behind the wheel with both the OE tires on the Tesla and then swap into the new Continental Extreme Contacts and see what sort of differences we notice. As I said, we have just under 13,000 miles on our long-term Model Y. We have rotated the tires once at right about 6,500 miles. we would absolutely be due for another tire rotation right now, but since we're putting the new tires on, we weren't too concerned about that. And it is important to rotate your tires, especially on these rear-wheel drive Model Ys and Teslas in general, because not only all that torque when you're accelerating is going just to the rear wheels, but also when you're regenning, those wheels are getting a little bit extra wear and tear. So the rears are going to wear down quicker than your fronts, and if you don't rotate, you're going to have to get a whole new set of rear tires way before your fronts are wore down. Overall, I've been fairly happy with the performance of these ProContact RXs. This is only a rear-wheel drive car, and I was impressed with its winter abilities. They are all-season tires, but they do have a little bit more of an eco-focus for this type of vehicle. So when we switch over to the 19 ExtremeContact DWS 06s Pluses, gosh, that's such a long name, I am expecting to see a bit of a range hit. Over the entire lifetime of this car, we've averaged 272 watt-hours per mile. There's also the possibility that the ExtremeContacts are going to be a bit louder. These ProContact RXs have a little bit of foam inside them that's supposed to eliminate or at least reduce road noise, and those tires that we're getting do not have the foam in them, so it might be a little bit more road noise as well. It'll be interesting. Obviously, we could go out to a track and extract every little performance measure out of these tires when we swap and see which one's got a little bit more cornering ability, a little bit more exact speed, braking, all that sort of deal, slalom tests. But we like to keep things a little bit more real world here at Daily Motor. So we're just going to go on to one of our little rural road test trips here. And at 69% battery, we're going to see what sort of acceleration numbers we get with these tires, and then we'll go and do this exact same test when we get the other tires on them. Air conditioning off. There's 0 to 60 that way. Even though it's not going to be an exact perfect test, because these tires have 13,000 miles on them, and the tires we're putting on are going to be new, so the rubber is going to be a little bit thicker, a little bit grippier. I still want to do a bit of a range test just for some sort of comparison figure. So we're going to do mini range tests for these so that we can fit multiple in per day. We're going to leave from our house and go out and do 50 miles total on the highway, 25 miles out, 25 miles back, and see what sort of efficiency numbers we get. Looking at the results of the range test with the OE ProContact tires, looks like we're getting about 250 watt-hours per mile at 70 miles per hour. That's definitely efficient for an SUV on the highway at 70 miles per hour, but that's decently in line with the other results we've seen. If we go to our range tests tagged here in Teslafy, you can see we've done 244 with outside temperature around 85 degrees. We've done 283 with the outside temperature at 36, and then 324 and 322, the outside temperature way down below freezing. So as it gets warmer out, we definitely see higher efficiency numbers, and about 250 watt-hours per mile seems to be the sweet spot for just cruising along, averaging 70 miles per hour on the highway. Okay, we've got the 19-inch ExtremeContact tires installed. I also cleaned this thing up a little bit. Weren't able to get all the bug guts off the front, but got the rest of it quite clean. Look at how huge it says Continental right here. I find that interesting. But we've only driven the car about 8 miles or so with the new rubber. So we're going to head out for some initial impressions. So far, I haven't really been able to tell too much of a difference, 19s to 19s. But the real question is going to be, what sort of efficiency numbers do we see? If we see too dramatic of a drop, then it's really going to be tough with this standard range Model Y. I mean, we've only got 250 miles or so in perfect ideal conditions, and that's on a full charge. You factor in not charging to full each day for battery health, and then you factor in different weather conditions and speeds, and that range really drops. So we really don't want to fall any further down. That being said, part of the impetus of doing this whole test is to try the 18s as well. So now we have the ExtremeContact DWS 06 Plus tires on the 19s and the 18s. So we're going to spend some time driving it on the 19s, and then in the other video, we'll compare these 19s to the 18s. Overall, it's a nice looking tire though. Looks good. This is supposed to give us ideal all-weather performance. It's supposed to let us run these tires all year round and have great performance in both the dry as well as snow and some rain. So we do have the tire pressure set to their 42 PSI cold recommendation. So let's hop behind the wheel. The main differences we're going to be looking for is sound. We might notice a little bit of performance, but the main advantages aside from efficiency, the main driving kind of feel and ownership experience differences will be efficiency and performance in the wet and the snow. We have had some dicey situations with the last tires in the rain. That might have just been because they were wearing out, but I'm expecting these to be more confident in the wet, and we're really interested to see what they're like in the winter, because after all, this is a rear-wheel drive car, and the precise traction control of an electric vehicle does really help in the winter, but I'm wondering if these tires are going to be even more confident, even better at stopping, turning, and going than the stock tires. It did have some slip right there. These things are very new. Oh wow, we're going fast. Sometimes the speed just it gets away from you in this car. Another thing I'm curious about, especially when we go to the 18s, is steering weight. This Model Y has always had a bit of a heavy steering, and I'm hoping that the thinner 235s will make that a little bit lighter. Really, we shouldn't see any difference with these 255s. They really don't seem to be any louder. Alright, we're at essentially the same charge level, 1 percentage point over, but let's see what we can do. Alright. At this point, it's tough for me to tell too much difference dry road to dry road with the Extreme Contacts versus the Pro Contacts. Like I said, I do think I noticed a bit more floatiness, but we're talking about a tire with fresh, thick, new compound, thick rubber compared to one that's been worn down quite a bit, so I bet that's where a lot of that feeling is coming from. The most important difference is going to be our efficiency numbers. So, we're going to head right back out on the highway and run the same test as we did yesterday with the Pro Contact RXs. That being said, it is a decent bit cooler today and there's less direct sunlight, so I am going to drop the climate control by 2 degrees to help offset that. We tried to get our range tests as apples to apples as possible, and despite TeslaFi showing a fairly lower average speed for our Extreme Contact range test, it did return 288 watt-hours per mile compared to the 253 on the test with the OE tires. We've had the tires on the car for about 500 miles now, and we are seeing about a 10% range drop across the board. If you have a longer range EV with more battery capacity, you might be able to stomach that 10% range loss, but it's definitely going to be tough for us on certain drives dealing with that loss of range. That being said, if you plan your trips properly, it'll only result in a few more minutes of charging at most of your stops. So, as we expected, about a 10% change in efficiency or so on our highway testing from the 13,000 mile wore out OE tires to these brand new Extreme Contacts. But even if you're losing, say worst case scenario, 10% efficiency with these tires over the OEs, if you're going on a road trip and say need to charge for 20 minutes typically, that's only going to jump up to 22 minutes with these tires. So are you willing to sacrifice maybe a few minutes of supercharging here or there in exchange for better performance in snow, wet, better tread life, and cheaper tires? And as we noticed, maybe even a little bit quieter ride? In my book, absolutely. So thank you all so much for watching the 19 to 19 tire comparison. Now, if you want to see what sort of differences we noticed going from these exact same tires on 19-inch wheels down to 18-inch wheels, check the link in the description. We'll have that video up soon. Shout out to Continental for hooking us up with some great ultra high performance tires for this Tesla Model Y. And if you want to see anything else on the Model Y, check the link in the description for our playlist. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.